I'm almost over. As working class wages have really been on the decline in real terms since about 73, people have maintained an almost commensurate standard of living just through credit. You look at these statistics, in 75, people only spent 62% of their disposable income. By a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, people were spending 127%. That means they were living 27% out on a limb on credit. And so when this crisis hit, it's like, talking to a friend the other day, he said, if you have an underwater mortgage, it's almost like being a slave. You owe more on it than it's worth. So you're tethered to this economic system that isn't doing anything for you. And so, but there are some inspirational things out. As I finish up, I just want to make this case. In 1886, the Haymarket martyrs were part of the 8-hour-a-day movement. They were mostly immigrants, mostly from Europe. And they were really working the hardest industrial jobs, and they rose up and they had a nationwide movement for the 8-hour day. As their trial began, the European press, especially the radical and the labor press, it was the trial of the century. And places like Spain and Italy and France, people had demonstrations against the hanging of the Haymarket martyrs. A lot of those people who left countries like Spain came to Latin America and brought that May Day tradition. And so they celebrated kind of a more European style of May Day rooted in the Chicago martyrs. So in 2006, when people were marching in places like Los Angeles on May Day, many of them were bringing it full circle. The German immigrants and the Polish immigrants and the Eastern European immigrants in Chicago in 1886, their story kind of went around the world. And maybe it came back to us to remind us of the roots of May Day here in the United States. Because it was pretty amazing. You know, I didn't like all the American flags, but there were millions of people marching in the streets. It was a general strike on May Day 2006. And then another thing that I think also lent some inspiration last year, longshoremen workers at 29 ports up and down the West Coast did a one-day work stoppage and brought May Day back as a tradition that we celebrate. Maybe a couple days ago it wasn't as inspiring as it had been, but I think it's that living embodiment of that radical tradition of May Day that is keeping it alive. So I'm just going to wrap up. An image of Chicago. Again, the idea I think is really powerful. The Chicago idea, I think, really best embodied in the IWW in the best years, where they said, what we have to do is organize the working class. As you see the picture, everybody's looking up at the sky, high in the sky, and the IWW guy is saying, what about the working class? What about the industries? What about organizing people where they're at? So I'll finish with that.